Folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the big1050.com. And you know what we do every single Thursday, top of the 9 o'clock hour. We catch up with our friends from MGoBlog for what we call the MGoBlog Roundtable. Now, you know,
friends?
It's not necessarily friends, plural. It's our friend from MGoBlog this week as Craig Ross is traveling. Brian Cook is under the weather. So our friend, Seth Fisher from MGoBlog is with us this week. Seth, good morning. How are you?
They're ducking us. They're ducking us, Sam. You know what happens every single time that it's just weird. Somehow, whenever we have to talk about this whole Signgate stupid thing, these guys just disappear. There's nowhere where they go.
You think it's topic related? It's topic related.
Craig ran for the mountains, so there you go.
Yeah, it could be. It could be topic related, I suppose, given how tiresome the topic is. But there were some revelations, Seth. You got some details on what was or was not in Chiron Moore's text messages. You got some information on kind of what's required in NCAA evidence when it comes to some of the charges that they levy against institutions. I had no idea that the source or the source of some of this information had to be identified. That was a revelation. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Which they say these things always come out of blood. So I'm sure somebody was mad at some point that there was an unnamed source calling them out, right? I don't know how far that's gonna go, but I think the most interesting thing in that was we finally have a name for this whole operation. Because Chris Partridge outed, he said, "You're not using this kid in your signal organization stupid thing." That's the name. That's it. Signal organization stupid thing. That was the official title. And that's what I think we all should be going with from now on. The signal organization stupid thing.
So here's, I guess, kind of the crux for me, because I've long thought that the NCAA's preoccupation initially with this was about Jim Harbaugh. Now I think it's about a struggle to show relevance, to kind of the last bastion of, look at us, we still have some semblance of power, so they're going to keep this like a dog chasing its last bone. So they're going to show that they have some kind of worth, and they're not going to let this go until they're forced to. And I think that Michigan's going to have to, they're actually going to have to play this out. Like, this point is not going to be conceded like maybe I thought it was going to at one point. Seth, I'm curious what you think.
So the NCAA has tried different ways of getting around the fact that they are completely irrelevant. One of them was to have this secondary process, which is what all those basketball schools that got caught in the FBI tap used. They've got rid of the IARP system. They've gotten rid of that. So we're back to two options. You either have a negotiated settlement, which is what they did with the other stuff, right? The Burger Gate and the coaches, the outfield coaches and whatnot. And that was you negotiate a settlement only when your needs align with the NCAA. The NCAA's need was to nail Jim Harbaugh as hard as possible. Michigan's didn't care because he was gone. They're like, okay, our needs align. We're going to have a negotiated settlement. Otherwise, you go to the COI, which is the Committee on Infractions, and basically you go in front of them, and then they make their decision, and you have to abide by that decision. It's so that's where they are right now. I know Michigan wants to have the pre-meeting about whether they're using this information, but they've had the same problem all along, which is that all of the facts align behind the SOST being a very minor thing, right? The signal organization stupid thing was not taken seriously by Michigan because it wasn't serious to them. And you can see in these quotes in the Dellinger report that went out there, when you read through it, every single time Stallions comes up, it's another Michigan staffer being like, dude, we really don't care what he's like. He was a very sideline guy in the program, and any disinterest in what he was doing was based on the marginal value of what he was doing. Right? They talked about how they get their signs, and this is true. And this is anyone who's been in football has known how signs are used and how teams break them and how alignment will tell you a million different things. You ask Mikey Samerstill what he sees before a play. It's not the sign that they came from the sideline, right? It's how they're lined up. It's the way the wide receivers are aligned will tell you something. The way the offensive linemen, how far they are off the line of scrimmage, that tells you if they're run or pass, right? Those are things that are keys that teams are willing to give anyway because it gives them an advantage in that play. So they've never had any factual information that was important at all. They never had very much Michigan didn't really do much, right? And one of the revelations in here, which Michigan's been saying along, it's the first time I think I've seen the media say this, is that if they're not on your schedule, it's not even against the rule, right? The rule is only teams who are on your schedule. So it's, how much is in-person scouting? How much was it? How important was this rule in the first place when they were talking about getting rid of it because it was just a cost-saving measure from the 90s? It doesn't matter anymore when you can get everything off of TV. When all we have is that Michigan had a sign stealing operation, a sign decoding operation, and that's legal. So that's the one side. And the other side is you have all these Brett Bielema's out there who want it to be the biggest scandal in history, right? All the Ohio State fans who want to make it a big deal. And that's that is an important consideration for the NCAA. And so we're having to deal with a world where the facts all say one thing and the wishes of corrupt, stupid people all say another thing. And those have equal weight to the NCAA. And that's the world we live in. So whatever happens from here, it's all about whether Michigan tried to cover it up, right? And they're going to focus on Chiron Moore deleting his texts, even though all of your texts are image.
Oh, that's
even though he would have known that when he deleted the text. It's still stupid. He said he was angry. No, Chiron, it was stupid. You were being stupid. But that's they're going to focus on because they got nothing.
Yeah, and so that is the point, though, or that should be the point ultimately. If you're an organization that is, if you're trying to find the, if you're trying to find the, you're talking about trying to find the piece of information that you set out to find at the beginning of this investigation, and that is this a nefarious plot to cheat? Now, that's what you set out to find in Chiron Moore's text messages. The piece that you led with in the notice of allegations was that Chiron Moore deleted his text, and that you had to uncover them with this imaging process. Now, that's what the Chiron Moore, the sum total of the Chiron Moore inclusion is all about. Why are we even talking about Chiron Moore anymore? It should be a footnote at this point, because there was nothing there. That should be, to me, that should be the story. At the end of the day, is that there was nothing, there was no substance in any of the text messages to support that there was any plot, any sign stealing plot that the coaches were privy to. If there was a plot at all.
It's clear that they had to pivot because Michigan moved on from Jim Harbaugh. So it's clear that they were building a case against Jim Harbaugh based off of, it took him, I don't know what Jim Harbaugh was doing from October 2023 to January 2024. I don't know what he was busy doing in those months. But apparently what he wasn't doing was going through all of his text messages and deleting everything between him and his attorneys and his family and whatnot to provide the perfect image for the NCAA, because they were building this, and you can see it in the Dellinger report, that there's a whole section that they prepared, and then it got shoved to the back about Jim Harbaugh taking too long to provide them with his personal texts.
Well, they asked Jim for, like, they wanted all Jim's texts. He said, "What, Jim? You want all my?"
Yeah.
No. I'm not gonna turn over all my texts. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine Jim Harbaugh turning over his entire library of texts to the NCAA? How do you think that's gonna go? And then, we trust us to only look at the ones we need.
Right.
Come on, man.
Right. No, that was, so you could tell that there was an unserious witch hunt to begin with against Jim Harbaugh. But now, what are they going to do to him? He's in the NFL. They can't touch him now. So they had to pivot and find something that's going to hurt Michigan. Well, who's Michigan's head coach now? Chiron Moore. Is Chiron Moore in here at all? Well, he deleted image text. Now, let me describe what an imaged text is for those of you who are think that this is some nefarious plot to, like, delete somebody off your phone. Michigan's phones will automatically back up everything that they do, their text messages, everything like that. When you work for an organization like this that has to report, there's an automatic backup on a computer. That's the imaging, right? It's not like they took screenshots or something like that, or you had to go deep into the phone to dig this out. Michigan creates these automatically because they are a reporting agency, and they're going to have, and sometimes legally you have to produce these documents. So, and the coaches get their phones knowing they're briefed on what goes in, and they know, they all are very aware while doing their jobs that there's going to be an image of everything they do. So deleting Connor Stallion's text thread off of your phone is really just a matter of, like, holding it for 3 seconds and deleting the guy off your phone. It's not like you went through and, like, just trying to clean the thing out. And it doesn't do anything. Now, it was stupid because it looks bad. But he would have known, and everyone would have known, and everyone very quickly was able to say, okay, well, we have an image of this, and here's all the documentation. It's not like he didn't destroy any evidence. And he would have known he was not destroying evidence. He was stupidly deleting the guy off of his phone is what he did.
Yeah, so you move on from that. Yeah. There's no substance there. And then you get into the crux of the actual case, which you, I think, cover very succinctly. It's like, okay, now when you look at what he actually did, there's one in-person scouting scenario for him, which obviously was the Michigan State Central Michigan game. And then there are 8 in-person scouting incidences where I guess a staffer, a low-level staffer was assigned. They said, and then there are the 43 other occurrences which you've already pointed out, where they said these actually aren't violations.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about? What are we talking according to your rules?
So Michigan's gonna say, look, based off of your rules, based off of our understanding of the rules, we were not breaking rules. Stallions went and did some things on his own and didn't tell us about it. But even when you have Partridge, so they have 2 pieces that look like cover-up, right? There's the low-level staffer saying, saying, no, I'm not going to go to Georgia. He goes to Partridge, and Partridge gives a quote and gives us the official name of the SOST that you're not using the official quote here. Hang on. Partridge went to Stallings directly and told him, you're not using this kid in your signal organization, stupid thing. So, like, just have him be a manager. All right. That's one piece, because then that sounds like Partridge knows there is a signal organization stupid thing going on. Now, from other context in here, it sounds like what Partridge is talking about is Stalions was open about the fact that he was talking to other sign stealers.
Yeah, other sign stealers, and they're trading signs.
Right, like Rutgers and Nebraska might be.
Yeah.
And Rutgers, that was a funny thing. As soon as this popped originally, I knew from somebody else who worked in an organization that Rutgers was like the sign stealers of the Big Ten. Right. And I was like, oh, are they going to get Rutgers too? Because everyone's got Rutgers images. But like that, and then they got from Rutgers. Rutgers told Mike Hart that, hey, this guy is doing something extra. And Hart took it to Minter, and it stopped right there. So the NCAA is looking at that because again, it's the cover up, and whether there's whether an organization is trying to comply does not just have things go to the coordinator and stop there, right? It's got to go to somebody, and it's got to go to compliance. Then compliance has to look at it and tell you whether it's okay or not. But it sounds like Michigan was they didn't even imagine he was doing this, because you're talking about a 1990s rule that no one's really paid attention to because everyone's got video nowadays. I don't think that it's very plausible that no one imagined what Stalions was doing with the videotaping, because when he's talking about it, he's like, we've got helicopter, we got overhead footage, we got, all this. It was very clear that he was mostly using legally obtained TV film, which is what everyone does. And he was also, working with other schools, which is what the coaches, right. And when they said he's extra, coaches, anyone who's seen Counter Stallions operate at all knows that guy was extra, right? So that's not going to be a surprise. So they say he's extra. They're like, well, he's probably trying to create an entire, national organization for the defeat of Ohio State or something, right? Like, the guy had grand ideas, and I can't imagine. You are supposed to take anything to compliance, but when you already know what he's up to, you already assume it's legal. It's very plausible to go from that to, well, yes, we know the guy is extra. He's Counter Stallions.
Yeah, man. The part where you're trading with the network of guys from other schools is all these dudes do that. Now, it's not like he's trading with Ohio State's guy. Like, you have the dudes that you're from, just like the actual coaches on the staffs. Like, they have coaches from other staffs that they trade information with.
Yeah,
the guys who they're friends with.
Right.
Same thing with
they're probably not trading with Bielema and Walters, right?
Correct.
Like, they've got their own little circle.
Same thing with the science stealer guy dudes.
Yeah.
So, he had his network of dudes that he traded signs with.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming, based on reading this information, that this is what the coaches kind of thought was his stupid sign stealer network dude thing that Partridge was talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. The SOST. The sauced.
Right. So Michigan, here's what I kind of glean from this. The posture that they've taken is, look, you guys want to try to make this a level 1. We are not gonna negotiate a punishment if you're gonna argue this is a level 1. So we'll go in front of this. You want to go in front of this infractions committee on the premise of this being a level 1. We aren't playing that game. If you try to levy a level 1 punishment against us, then guess what? And you actually give us a level 1 punishment. I'm assuming, based on this punishment, based on this posture, Seth, that Michigan is going to take them to court. Like, if they actually follow through, and level a severe punishment, which I can't, to actually see it come to that, and I just don't think it's gonna. I struggle to see this coming to that.
Like I said, they have
to court. I think this would go to court.
I can see it going to court. I don't know what's going to happen in court. You never know what happens in court, right? But they still have completely different needs, and that's where it comes down to, right? When you're talking about why can't they come to a negotiated resolution, and why are we worried about the COI coming out with a resolution that is wildly different than what their rules say it should be? especially after, they let Tennessee off with just a fine. And because the COI, one of the things they don't do these days, they don't like bowl bans, right? That takes money out of their pockets, and it also punishes the present kids for things that past things happen, right? They don't want to punish the players of today for things that happened in the past. And the players really just didn't have anything to do with this. So I don't think no one's mentioned, at least since the Dellinger report came out, no one's mentioned anything like, taking wins off the table.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that, right? They're probably not going to be any kind of bowl ban. The question is if there's a level 1 violation, which is going to, we'll have some recruiting issues and whatnot, and probably some sort of fine or whatnot, right? You made us go through the trouble, and here's the kind of money that. So they could have come to a settlement there, but they have completely opposite needs. Michigan is like, looks, all the facts say that this is not a big deal. This is not a big. These are minor violations. There's not nearly as many as you made it out to be. It's just our people who hate us engineered this into a major story. And the NCAA's need is, yes, they made it a major story, and now we're right in the thick of it, and we're going to look like idiots if we don't get you for anything. So if we actually follow our rules, if we are actually honest here, if we are actually doing what our regulations say, or following any kind of precedents that we've set, or doing anything that you would expect us to do if we are an operable organization of competent people, we're going to look like idiots. That's their problem.
Which is why I think this is why I think you got to go to court. This is why I think it would go to court in order to force them to follow their rules.
And that's what schools, Tennessee, they got very little, and then their Attorney General was like, you're not going to be able to do this, and then they got out completely, right? Now, Dana Nestle's not that kind of person. Like, she's just not that kind of politician. I think she'd look like a hypocrite if she tries to be, right? Yeah. She's not. She is unfortunately, she's a Michigan-educated, good Attorney General, and the way we educate our people, they don't act like that. So,
Seth, this posture this tone that Michigan is taking, that is coming across in this response, seems different to me. Like it just seems a bit more aggro, a bit more aggressive, man. And I like it. I like it. It's like, man, you know what? You can't cuss on the radio. But it's like, y'all can't, basically, like, in a sense, you can kick rocks. Like, you can try that if you want to. But we are not going to sit here and deal with the BS. Like, we see what this is. You have no evidence. You're dealing. You aren't even following your own policy when it comes to the tipster. So reveal the tipster, or maybe you don't even have a case. Now, here's a question for you, Seth. So Michigan has requested this hearing, this pre-hearing, I should say. Is the NCAA mandated to grant that request?
Not to my understanding. The COI has pretty open powers, and they keep on changing it, so it's hard to keep up with exactly what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do. But I'm not sure that they are mandated to do any of that. Basically, what they are allowed to do is they got this whole process that's laid out in their website in a great big PDF that, there's a lot of opportunities to off-ramp and discuss a negotiated resolution. And then you can move it down to the next step. And at that step, there's another chance to off-ramp, right? But those are all off-ramps. The idea is supposed to be just taking away the corruption and the stupidity and the facts of this case. The way the system is designed is supposed to be collaborative. The way this whole thing is supposed to work is the president wants his school to be clean and to be doing things correctly, and is sometimes at odds with his athletic director or his football coach, and their interests align with the NCAA's. The system was broken years ago when presidents started aligning their interests with their football programs instead of the NCAA's needs. So the system doesn't even work the way it was constructed. But they've been trying to decide that it's just just kind of make it work, right? Trying to just kind of keep this thing going by making it as collaborative a process as possible. But there's not a lot of times when you have this amount of dissonance between the two sides. One side wants to stick to the facts. And what Michigan did, I think, was their strategy all along, right? All the rolling, I mean, they weren't expecting Tony Petitti to come down like a,
Idiot.
That should have been that's a court case that could have, right? And then they had to make a decision after with Partridge and everything like that. But that was completely out of left field. And that's a level of corruption we still haven't dealt with, because Tony Petitti cannot be in the Big Ten commissioner if he's going to act like that. And that is a huge problem for Michigan. Him aside, right? As far as Michigan's response with the NCAA this entire time has been, we're going to follow all the rules. We're going to, if we told our staff, you don't even talk to people about this. And if they fired Chris Partridge like this.
Mm-hmm.
When all he had said something fairly innocuous, and they're just like, no, you talk to people about the investigation. We told you you're not allowed to do that. You're gone. That was their own policy. And the NCAA wants to stick that in there and say, this is evidence of your corruption. That's evidence of Michigan's compliance.
That's ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is evidence of Michigan. That is Michigan. That was, right?
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
That is evidence of Michigan taking it seriously. And that's what they did. They provided the images. They had the imaging system set up in the first place so that coaches can't even delete text. They had everything that the NCAA could have asked for, and they went through, they took their time, they looked through every, and then they said, okay, here's where you have evidence and here's where you don't. And that's what Michigan plan was all along. We are going to be the completely lawyer side, because what we do, we produce really good lawyers. So we did it the way that you would if you are producing a criminal case where they have very little on you, and it's a big process, and they want to make sure they get a scalp. And the NCAA, they kind of looked over this and said, what can we get them on? And they are very, very far apart in what the end resolutions should be, because Michigan is like, the end resolution should be fair. It should follow your process. It should be based off of what our expectations are and your expectations are, and it should be based off of precedent. And NCAA's needs are, it should make Bielema happy.
Right. And the two things can't happen at the same time.
Right.
Things cannot coexist.
So
and Michigan is gonna have to force the NCAA's hand here, like these other places, like these other schools did. And I'm glad that they seem prepared to do that. 137 pages says we're prepared to do that. We are not going to be conciliatory here.
It says that
I like that tack.
Yeah, it says that it shows you what Michigan's tactic is, which is, we are going to be thorough, we're going to be honest, and we're going to let them be the dishonest party. And then, even if that doesn't work, if the dishonest party are the ones who get to make the final decision as far as the NCAA is concerned, you're right. It does set them up for a court case. Mm-hmm. So, and the NCAA is going to try to off-ramp along the way, because they are going to see that coming down the pipeline too. And they always look. But I think the NCAA almost prefers a judge to make that determination. So it looks like they're doing something, and they please the Bielemas. And it's out of our hands, guys. The judge said so.
Well, because I mean, you say they aren't mandated to grant the request. I think, if they don't,
I don't know about that. I'm not sure about that. Yeah.
Well, so it's interesting though, because if they don't grant it, I think it kind of helps. In the grand scheme of things, it kind of helps Michigan in the court case. It's like, look, they didn't follow their own policy and procedure. And then when we requested a hearing on that policy and procedure, they didn't grant it to even talk about following that policy. So they completely blew past it and sort of ramrodded whatever judgment they wanted to levy. Look at where's the Where's the fairness?
It's not been fair from the beginning. I don't think
Right.
so. Listen, Sam, I'm not an attorney. I just write about football for attorneys. So I don't know what a judge is going to see and what they're not going to see. I'm trying to guess just based off of how my limited understanding of how the legal system works. And now we're not in the NCAA anymore. Now we're in the real legal system, right? I don't know how much a judge is really going to care that the NCAA's policy is everyone that we get information from has to be outed. They have to use their name. That is a difficult precedent, I think, that not every single judge is going to like, because a lot of times a person who comes forth with information, a whistleblower, is going to need some protection both from the program and from the public. I don't know who the whistleblower is. I don't know what their motivation for it was or anything like that, right? But once you get into the legal system, that the NCAA's need to make their schools happy and make their powerful people happy so none of the people who work for them can ever do that to them, is not going to play in a court, I don't think, as strongly as it plays in the NCAA's world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, but I guess if we sign into an agreement, if I sign into an agreement with you, and this is and the premise of this agreement is that we abide by these bylaws.
Yeah.
And you don't abide by these bylaws, then how valid is the agreement?
Well, look what happened when they tried to get a stay on Petiti, right? The ultimate decision from that was, look, of course, before we even talk about how unfair they're being to you, because we'll even concede that they're being completely unfair to you. We'll concede that they're breaking their policies. We'll concede that they're liars and they seem to have it out for you. You signed up for this. And I think that that's going to be a problem. If we go to the legal system, it's not like it's a slam dunk, because in these cases, you have to get around the fact that you signed up for this. You ultimately signed a document that says the NCAA gets to determine what they have hearings on and what they don't. The NCAA gets to determine how they do things or not. And if the NCAA wants to use that to make Brett Bielema happy and lie about what happened and make a big thing out of something nothing, that's because they want to get you. You signed up for it. Michigan is a member of the NCAA. The NCAA gets to do whatever they want to their members. That's how they structure the system. So it's not a slam dunk. And the best situation for everybody almost all the time in these cases is to say, what are your needs and what are my needs, and try to come up with a solution that does both of them.
Yeah,
they can't.
I wonder, has this been out? Has this been tested? And I think that's the ultimate question here. Has anyone tried to test this particular issue? Because I'm looking in the chat right now, and there seems to be some dispute over whether Michigan's assertion here about the NCAA needing to reveal its source, whether there's actually any real basis for that, whether they have a leg to stand on. Has it really been tested? What Michigan is saying, has it been tested in a court?
I don't know, because where a lot of these things, because the NCAA, when they've been getting kicked around in court lately, it's because they were trying to prevent players from making money.
Mm-hmm.
And basically they were coming up against the Commerce Clause, which when you talk about, like I said, I'm not an attorney. I write about football for attorneys. I don't know this stuff as well as some of the people in the chat probably. But my understanding is that, constitutionality matters, law matters. And then once you get past what's constitutional, what's the law, everything else is, what did you sign up to do? If you made a contract between parties and it's a contract, and they will default to what the contract says, because that's what you did. You signed a contract saying, I'm going to, let this organization monitor me so that we can all have a fair playing field. And the system is not created for people to have this much disassociation from reality. And that's the main problem here. And it's been the main problem from the very beginning with this whole quote scandal, right? The whole SOST thing is that this is not a big deal. Reality is 100% on Michigan's side here.
Yeah,
This is not a big deal. They really didn't break very many rules. With the rules they broke were very minor. It's a level 2 violation. But it's a big deal because it was sensationalized. It's a big deal because of Michigan, and people don't like Michigan. It's a big deal because the NCAA wants to show that they are relevant in an age when they're not. That's what we're dealing with. So it's a very bad situation to be in when you are on the side of reality and the people in power are not.
Yeah, you know what? It's you wouldn't assume that there wouldn't be such a blatant abuse of power, because as Dotman, who is an attorney, says never been tested in the court because schools don't sue the NCAA because it would be a waste of time. But I wonder if it really would be in this. I don't think it would be in this instance. If you're Michigan, even if you thought it was a losing proposition, I think to make the point, because the abuse of power is so blatant, as I said before. I think to make the point, to emphasize the point of the abuse of power, I think you would want to do it for that reason.
I think you want to do it for that reason, and you also want to do it because it will take time. And the longer this goes, the more people care that, we have planes crashing into each other and, kids getting attacked in schools. And there's way more important things going on now that it was like if you go back, if you don't mind me going back to the 1920s real quick, the 1930s.
Well, we'll do that on the other side. Ira's giving me the break sign. He's like, "What are you doing?"
Okay, done. Perfect. We'll talk about it in the break. I'll do my 1930s bit in the break.
Yeah, we got to get to a break back on the other side here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at thebig1050.com.
So in the late 20s, they decide that they're finally sick of all the players getting paid, all this corruption. Everyone knows that the system is. Yeah. Yes. Craig's not here. I have to do Craig's story time for everybody. So they made a report, and they got a lot of people to talk. They got a lot of people to say, yes, people are getting paid. Players are getting paid. Here's how it happens. Here's the whole system, right? We have, they check into jobs that they don't really have. Michigan was part of it too. Everybody's guilty. And they come out with this massive report, and the report comes out a week after the stock market crashes, and nobody cares because it's 1928. So I kind of think that's where this is all heading. If you really want to play out where this is going, NCAA is probably going to come up with something that's ridiculous. Michigan's going to probably fight it in court. It's going to take a few years to get there. And by the time we have some sort of settlement on it, it's going to be so long ago, and so many other things are happening in people's lives, they're not going to care. Well,
and then, I think your timing point is also relevant because the power of the NCAA is dissipating. And the longer this drags out, I think the less relevant and the less power the NCAA has. So, you can maybe wait them out. You can drag it out to the point where, maybe they just don't have the teeth that they had at the beginning of this thing.
Well, the question is, what does the NCAA have teeth on at all anymore? Because they don't have any way to enforce the payments to players anymore, right? Every single time they try to do anything, they're knocked down to the point where I think it's even almost too far, right? Where players can just transfer wherever they want to, and there's no team control anymore. So the NCAA has lost most of their relevance very openly. So what do they still have? Well, they do have creating fair play between teams. And regardless of whether it was legal or not, it feels unfair that you can decode another team's signs and know what play is coming, right? Even if it's not very relevant, and anyone who knows football could tell you this, you have a situation where you have a lot of people who think it's very unfair and a lot of fans who are not listening, and you have to operate in the world of the idiots, not the world of reality when you're dealing with something like that. So I think that as far as this case is concerned, the NCAA is like, this is the only thing we have left. This is the only thing that we can get anybody on because it doesn't involve paying players. It involves a stupid vacuum repairman who, broke a stupid rule that we were talking about getting rid of anyway. And now it's going to make a lot of people happy if we get these guys, even if we don't even have anything on them. And that's our problem. That's our problem the whole time. Reality is 100% on Michigan's side, which means you're dealing with people who are completely divorced from reality, and you're going to have to accept whatever comes from people who are completely divorced from reality.
Like I said at the onset, if that winds up being the case, you're going to have to do what the other teams that successfully mercied the NCAA did. You either sue or you threaten to sue. And it worked successfully for I mean, think about it. The NCAA had a much stronger case against Tennessee.
Sure.
Much stronger. And for all intents and purposes, Tennessee got off scot-free. I know they got punished, but relative to what they did, they got off scot-free.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, come on. And it was all because they said, you want to mess with us, we are going to court. Now, it was their attorney general who made the threat, but I think that Michigan's lawyers, the power that they wield together. Okay, I got you. The power they wield together.
Yeah.
Back on radio in 5, 4, 3.
We are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the Big1050.com. Before we get back to the MGoBlog Roundtable, I got to tell those of you who are in the market for a new vehicle, you should get on board with Brighton Ford. Go to BrightonFord.com, call 1-800-NEW-FORD, or make it out to the lot at 8240 West Grand River Avenue in Brighton, Michigan. So John Cuter and his crew will take great care of you with deals that can't be beaten, deals like the one on the 2024 Ford F-150 XLT, $266 a month with $3,500 down, or $399 a month with $500 down. How about the 2024 Escape Active, $242 a month, $3,500 down, or $324 a month with $500 down. And last but not least, the 2025 Ford Explorer Active, $314 a month with $3,500 down, or $447 a month with $500 down. For those and other great deals, get on board with Brighton Ford. We're going to BrightonFord.com, call 1-800-NEW-FORD, or make it out to the lot at 8240 West Grand River Avenue in Brighton, Michigan. Now back to the MGoBlog Roundtable -2. That means just Seth Fisher and I today. And so, Seth, we've sort of gone around the bend and talking about what did Partridge call it again? Stupid.
That's the SOST. The Signal Organization Stupid Thing.
Signal Organization Stupid Thing. Yeah, we gone around a bit on that. So you have a defensive coordinator who just won the national championship, right? He's been to the mountaintop, making a lot of money, probably in line for a raise, right? And before the title celebration even begins, Jim Knowles is out the door. What do you make of that move, Seth? Going to a conference rival, no less.
First of all, he went to a conference rival for lots of money. So much money that Penn State trustees had to meet and not say his name and do like a 5-minute session and call it, quote, personal matter on their thing. And I think they're going to get in trouble because they was breaking because they have a law against that. But I know Oklahoma was talking to him too. I think that and this goes for coaches, this goes for players, this goes for anybody. If you have an opportunity to get away from Ohio State, do it. If you don't have to be around those fans anymore, that is a massive life improvement. Okay? If you can move out of Ohio for another job, your life will improve by not being around Ohio State fans anymore. I think that they've been terrible to him. There's lots of examples after 2022 and after 2023 of Ohio State fans interrupting his private life over their madness, right? And if another school comes along and says, look, we're not going to treat you like that, we're going to love you.
Yep. That's what I heard.
It's a better lifestyle. And I think that we need to focus on this because people need to know this before they make a mistake of signing up to be with Ohio State for any reason.
And
because you're going to be subject to those people.
Yeah, I heard he was looking to get out. But for the middle of the season, he was looking to get out of there.
He was looking to get out in 2020. As soon as he got there, he was like, these people are nuts.
Yeah, but I had heard it was not about the fans as much as it was about this is just what I heard, not what I know. So I won't qualify it as such. Was it like, man, this is a staff full of people it's about them. It's not a staff full of guys who are like, all for one. CMB, we all we got. Am I my brother's keeper? Hell no, not the Ohio State staff. I'm not my brother's keeper. Now they won because they had a lot of talent.
Yeah,
but it was not a all for one for all. It's a lot of me guys. Is just what I heard that he was looking to get out of Dodge. At least that's the way he felt on defense.
I mean, you've got a lot of big personalities at that school because everyone was hired for being a big name, right? They got Larry Johnson out of Penn State originally because he was the biggest name. He was the most important coach on Paterno's staff. So everybody in that room, coaches and players, are people who came there because they had that feeling about themselves that I'm the greatest and I'm the reason. And I think that when people were talking about that defense, they weren't saying Jim Knowles was a brilliant coordinator. They're saying, wow, they went and got Caleb Downs. They fixed their we forgot to recruit Rod Moore problem by going and getting Caleb Downs. And when you can do that, you have a good defense.
Look, and if you win a championship, I mean, it doesn't have to be kumbaya on the staff. If you win a championship, I'm sure Ryan Day say, hey man, if we lost to Oregon and I went down to the defensive staff saying we need to do this and we need to do that and we need more pressure and all this, and Jim Knowles maybe got a little upset about it, and we won the championship, so freaking what? We won the championship, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's not why you won the championship, Ryan. You won the championship because you didn't have to see Michigan anymore. That's why. That's why you won, because you were able to avoid Michigan. You won because you got the chance to win the I Can't Beat Michigan National Championship. That's why.
I mean, this guy held the high-powered Michigan offense with Davis Warren to just 13 points. And gets no credit for it.
That's why because they allowed something called the I Can't Beat Michigan National Championship. It came into existence this year with the expanded playoff. That's the only reason. The only reason.
The pants, the no pants natty, I think is what they're bringing out. That's I think our long snapper Wagner called it that at the Senior Bowl, the no pants natty. So that's the term we're coining. No pants natty. That's what they do. They got a championship shirt and they don't have any pants. So I think people are going to notice they don't have pants.
Hey, they keep hearing about it.
They're going to have a blank side on their championship rings too, where they usually put the rivalry score.
And you can tell it bothers them because they keep trying to tell us about how meaningful it is and how big it is. They keep trying to explain it to us. Like, oh, why you got to tell us?
It's like they didn't have a gazillion polls the last 10 years about like, would you rather beat Michigan or win a national championship? And like 68% of them are like, beat Michigan. What are you talking about? That's who they've been. That's who they've been since 1910. That's what that school is. That's what they've made themselves. That's why they are the way they are. And it's just like, now you've got it. I love it. I mean, Ohio State was going to win a national championship in this era where they can just buy more better players than everybody else. And it sucks that they did that. But like, I'm glad that it was in a year they lost to the worst Michigan team possible. It's just glory.
Now it'll be interesting to see how they replace or who they replace Jim Knowles with. Because he wound up working out for him. Now they went and got Caleb Downs. I think that was a huge had a huge part of it, maybe the biggest part of it. How will Jim Knowles help James Franklin? And got to be quick about it because I don't think that was James Franklin's biggest problem.
Well, I think he had a really good defensive coordinator, and I think it was a big loss. We've had we had a lot of respect, since he was in Indiana for why am I blanking his name? Tom Allen. Yeah. So and he had a great defensive coordinator before that, and they were Manny Diaz, and they had a really well coordinated defense. You look at like the system and the way they use their players. I was always very impressed by Penn State. So they're going to help Penn State, but Penn State is still going to be the same quarterback, and he'll be marginally better next year. So okay, but they don't have to play Michigan, so we'll be fine.
That's why Knowles left. He doesn't have to play Michigan in the regular season.
Yeah, but can he help them beat Ohio State is the question. Can he get them over to Ohio State? I would tell. Seth, great job, my man. Appreciate you. To the rest of you, we'll see you tomorrow here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at thebig1050.com.